Thank you. I want to give notice of an executive session that just was completed. We were speaking of personnel issues this evening. First up is any general public participation. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that a commissioner would like to pull? Nope. Seeing none, anything the public would like to pull? Seeing none, could I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? All in favor? Aye. All right, let's move on to the business agenda. Item A is Resolution 2024-70, Final Land Development Plan Approval for 12 to 14 Ferriston Road, subdivision of one lot into two. Could I have a motion? And a second?
So moved.
Okay. Hello, welcome again.
Oh, how are you today, ma'am?
Very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank
Good. Would you give us a brief overview of the project? I think everyone was here last time we discussed this, but for the public and the viewing audience, that would be terrific.
Not a problem. Well, as you know, 14 and 12 Ferriston was a subdivision. There was an existing house. Sorry. As people know, 12 and 14 Ferriston was a single-family residence. The house was roughly here.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks.
Did that before. The existing house was in this location here. It was removed, and then the subdivision was done. And as you can see, another residence will be built there. We have been here numerous times, Shade Tree Commission, Planning Commission, so on and so forth. And really tonight, we're just really here to get final approval for the project. My engineer has talked with the Township engineer and also the reviewing engineer to go over the only two comments that were really outstanding. One of them was the sidewalk, which was removed, which was a request of the residents, which we did. As you can see, we have removed it. Secondarily, the other request was to make sure that the sidewalk was ADA compliant, which we were able to do. We then were able to follow the existing road contour that's out there to continue the sidewalk up. As some people know, and if you're familiar with that stretch of the stretch of the road, in Tradifferent Township, there was a set of old brick steps and an inlet. Well, we took that upon ourselves, or the client took that upon themselves to fix that issue. And in the process of doing that, we were also able to remove an existing driveway that was no longer there. One of the comments that came roughly later this afternoon was about that area not being as compliant as it could be. My engineer and I, we sat together, we looked at it, and we realized that the calculation that was done was between grade lines and wasn't between the location of where the inlet was going to be replaced and then where we were trying to meet the existing grade of the existing sidewalk, which is asphalt out there. After talking with the engineer tonight, we have come up with a solution, and after doing the math, we were able to get it compliant. So as part of the final land development conditions, we would make sure that this works, gets reviewed, and then any other letters, any other issues that are outstanding with traffic, sewer, township stuff, we would be more than happy to take care of that.
It's upside down again.
I'm sorry?
Oh.
It's upside down again.
Oh.
Sorry, I was trying to be subtle and it did
Nope,
not
that's
work.
all right. Yeah, and this location is this location right here we had talked about. So as you can see, we have worked a solution out, and we'll be able to make that work.
So I heard you say this, I think, but I was busily looking at the plan and I missed it. You've removed the sidewalk, I believe?
Yes, correct.
Excellent.
So you're getting a brand new sidewalk, you're getting new curbing, we're connecting, you're getting two different townships going to get a new inlet. So we've made sure that we've complied with as much as possible. We're still waiting to hear back from two different township, though.
Brand new sidewalk along Radnor Road, but not along Ferriston?
Correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other commissioner questions, comments? Mr. Norsini, do you have any questions or comments?
No, so thank you, Commissioner. The vote tonight would be to provide final approval pending outside agency approval, and the solicitor's drawn up a dozen of these. So it would be pending outside agency approvals and the opportunity for Mr. Drummond to review that ADA compliant sidewalk, because we haven't seen that yet.
And we don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay. Any public comment? Come on up. Just give your name and address and try to speak into the mic.
My name is Bill Conway. I live at 38 Farriston, and I was here at the last meeting when we spoke with Jack Larkin. On behalf of most of the residents, I believe, we're glad to hear that the sidewalks were removed. I think I just heard him say that there will be curbs on Farriston. Is that correct?
There's a curb coming around the corner, and then it ends at the driveway.
Okay. I think, best of my recollection, I think that's good with us, most of the neighbors. So just want to give our blessing so far.
Thank you so much.
I apologize, I'm sorry, did you say, so the curb goes to the second driveway, correct?
Hi, I'm Mike Packer. I live at 30 Farriston Road. I just have a question. There's a brick wall along Farriston there.
That'll be coming out.
That comes out, okay. And so that becomes then a grass area?
Correct.
So no sidewalk on?
Correct.
then we're-
Residents of Farriston do not want a sidewalk.
Oh, I know that.
Any further public participation? Okay. We have a motion and a second, so I am going to move to approve Resolution 2024-70, Final Land Development Plan Approval for 12 to 14 Farriston Road, as amended per Mr. Norsini there. Can I have a vote? All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Have a
Good
great
luck with the project.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Item B is a motion to approve spending up to $25,000 on the removal of hazardous trees identified in the park's tree risk assessment performed by Rockwell Associates. Could I have a motion, please? And a second? Thank you. Mr. Foster, is this you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. After the meeting that we had last week on the 13th, we received direction to go out and try to find the most hazardous of the trees that were there. So after talking with our township arborist, Mr. Hosback, we located 34 trees spanning over 7 parks. So I have all the information on these papers here from the report that we did out of the 255. And we just wanted to get approval to be able to hopefully take down those 34, but it all depends on what the amount comes to. We haven't started taking quotes yet, but we did start to identify the trees, and we came up with the number of 34.
And you think $25,000 will roughly get you started on those?
Oh, it'll definitely get us started.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it'll complete all 34. I mean, that would roughly be
Right.
under $1,000 a tree.
That's pretty inexpensive for taking down a large tree. At least in my yard it is. Okay, fine.
Madam President, if I could just add a little bit more context.
Absolutely.
Since the direction came from me, and that came on the heels of a couple different conversations, primarily of which was the concerns raised during the meeting about the urgency with getting trees down. The $25,000 number is our bid limit, so that's the ceiling we can go up to and move quickly, which is why this is in front of you tonight at that amount. As Mr. Foster pointed out, we'll get as many trees as possible. And the goal in identifying these trees was the trees that offer the highest hazard should they fall, given their proximity in the park and where people are at. So that's the goal, is to try to address as many of those trees as possible, while the rest of the report and the rest of the trees that were identified go through the process that was described last week.
Well, that should get us started anyway, and doing it in a timely fashion, which I think is what's important to all of us, is the safety of our township residents. So, wonderful. We have a motion and a second. Do I have a vote to approve? I'm sorry.
Sorry. I had talked to you about. So I just wanted to thank Mr. White and Mr. Foster. As I said last week, I was distressed, and I had conversations with Mr. White and some suggestions. We worked on some suggestions, and I am just very thankful and impressed with how quickly a resolution came about. So thank you very much.
Public comment.
Thank you. I realized it. But Commissioner Abel has some comments first.
Yeah, Ricky or Bill, can we just walk through the criteria that was used to select the trees? So it's not just that the tree's in declining state. It's that it's in declining state and next to a path or a bench. Like, is the location given more credence than just the tree's health?
Yes, it will be the location and the condition of the tree.
So I can assume if the tree's marked with, is it 2 slashes are coming down? If it's 2 slashes and it's next to a bench, it will be part of the 34, or it should be part of the 34?
I can provide the list for you so you can see exactly where they will be, but I didn't go around to follow to see exactly where all of these are located. The arborist came up with the destination, and depending on how bad they are, just to give an example, I'll take one that I have in front of me at Odoricio. It says the perimeter DeMayo field entrance. It has multiple defects and basal decay. So out of, a lot of the things that are mentioned on here, there's ash trees that are mentioned, severe decline. They're also labeled out of that 34. So it is, specific to what we're taking down.
Okay. So, I haven't seen the list. Is the tree that was pictured at Bo Connor Park next to the playground, is that included?
Bo Connor is on there, has 3 out of that amount. I didn't go through and see exactly where each of those 3 were at, but Bo Connor is on there with the trees.
Okay, and do you know if at least the one, but I think there's 2 at Ditmar that come up against St. David's parking lot and are, on each side of the bench? Are those 2 included?
I can go back and check and see exactly where and get that information for you, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, I would hope if they're next to a bench or a playground and they have 2 slashes, that they make that list.
Yeah, and every attempt will be made to hit all those trees. Please understand that this is kind of out of sequence. We're putting this together in real time. I think under normal circumstances, we would have put this whole list together and had a part of the public packet, but we're trying to work as quickly as we can with the meeting schedule to get these trees addressed. So once we have gotten out into all the parks and they're clearly identified and mapped out, we'll make sure that the commissioners are aware.
And is the goal here to stay under 25,000 just so you don't have to go out to bid?
Well, the goal is that we cannot exceed 25,000 because of the bid limit in the charter. So we are complying with the charter, and that's why that's the ceiling.
No, understood. So, is there thought to thinking about, going to 30,000 and just putting it out for bid, or do we not want to do that because of the time required?
Yes. That's the rest of the list. Will eventually make its way out to bid, but that is a multi-month process.
Okay.
And that's assuming we get responsible contractors the first time out, which isn't always a guarantee. So the concern with the delay or the length of time that takes, in addition to having a conversation with Shade Tree and coming up with some sort of replanting plan as part of that, and then being back in front of this board, the delays in that process were concerning, so that's what started this conversation.
Okay. Yep. And I'll just follow up this week and just get a better understanding of which trees from those in Ward 6 made it on the list.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any public comment?
Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue. Could we at least know which are the 7 parks that are going to receive immediate attention?
Mr. Foster.
Sure. I have Odoricio, Bo Connor, Fenimore Park, Itham Valley Park, Willows Park, Ditmar Park, and Radnor Memorial.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. All right, we have a motion to approve spending $25,000. Could I have a vote? All in favor? Aye. Item C is the Willows Park Preserve, their biannual report regarding the progress of fundraising efforts and construction. Mr. Nord, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Will Nord. I'm the Executive Director at the Willows Park Preserve. Thank you for this opportunity to give our biannual presentation. I'm going to do a little overview of what's been going on at the Willows Park Preserve, and then going to hand it over to Krista, our treasurer, and she's going to go over some of the finances. Before we start, want to give a thank you to the Township staff and the continued support that they give us. When we have a question, when we're facing a challenge, when we need a recommendation, we send them an email or pick up the phone, and they've been extremely helpful. And going into this was a partnership between the WPP and Radnor Township. And from our vantage point, from our view, it's working really well, and we really appreciate all the support. My slides are a little out of order, so please forgive me. So I'll start with this. So what has been going on at the Willows Park Preserve in terms of the improvements to the physical building? We have installed a new first-floor bathroom. We continue to work on the exterior painting. We have improved the second-floor bedroom. And we are preparing, we have been for a little while, preparing for the kitchen renovations, which is going to be a big project. So we're continuing to work with the township in making sure that we have all the plans in place to start that kitchen improvement. We have developed our very first strategic plan, which is very exciting for us as a young nonprofit. It's right now, it's in the editing stages, but this will guide us over the next 3 to 5 years. It'll be a great guide for not only myself as the only employee, but for our board, future board members, for the public, and so forth. We have, along with our caterers, we have booked 25 major private events, which is a part of our lease, capped at 25 major events per year in 2024. Actually, in speaking with Peachtree the other day, even right now for 2025, they have booked, I believe, about 20 major private events. As you all know, and Krista gets into, those 25 major private events are a big part of our revenue to help operations. The WPP has connected with over 40 individuals or businesses and organizations so far in 2020. Here's a list of them. That means either hosting them at the Willows Mansion, partnering them with for programs or events. And we're grateful for those partnerships and those collaborations. You'll see on the left, a bunch of organizations that joined us at Wellness at the Willows. Wellness at the Willows is a free community event we hosted a few weeks ago. Had 16 30-minute health and wellness classes, had 25 tables giving out free health and wellness resources. So it was a great community event. As we grow as a nonprofit, we're also collecting more and more data. The more we grow up and the longer we're around, we can collect that data and really informs some of our decision making, which is really valuable in the short term and the long term. At Wellness at the Willows, which was interesting, we had attendees come from over 25 different zip codes, which is pretty nice. People are flocking to the Willows Park Preserve and seeing what's going on. A quick reminder, in terms of our events and programs that we host and that we partner and collaborate with other individuals or organizations, it's not only mission aligned, right? We're restoring the Willows Mansion, physically restoring it so the community can use it. So these programs and events are not only mission aligned, but they're a strategic opportunity for us to spread awareness about our young nonprofit, develop deeper relationships, which hopefully in turn into financial support down the road as well. Some pictures for some programs and events that we've been doing over at the Willows Mansion. And then here is our mission statement, which was revised, not very different than which was, what was established a few years ago. And then our what we value as a young nonprofit organization. We will share our vision, and we will share the strategic action steps and plans that we have in place and developed as well. We might have mentioned it in a previous meeting in the last year, but we had some great community focus groups as we developed this first strategic plan, and had I think close to 30 community members come and join us and ask us questions and share their thoughts and give us feedback as we develop this plan. That is my part. I'm going to turn it over to Krista, and I'm going to help her with some of these slides, and we're going to start with key messages. This is the slide you wanted?
Yeah. Thank you, Will. Our financial statements and our books are maintained by our business partner, Ludwig Business Consulting, so that's an accounting firm. Additionally, once every year, we have to go through a review. A third party reviews our financial statements. We wrap that up. I think you all have those results, so it's a detailed accounting of our 2023 and 2022 financials. Revenue grew 19% in 2023 when you exclude the $173,000 reimbursement payment we received from the Township in 2022 for the fire suppression and sprinkler system. So I think that just reinforces we're financially stable and our outlook continues to improve. And we continue to be very resourceful in our efforts to fund projects, a number of restoration projects, the kitchen renovation being a big one that we're focused on this year. I'll talk briefly about some of the highlights. As I mentioned, revenue grew 19%. This chart was put together so that you could see the results when we backed out that Township payment. So over $316,000 in revenue. On the balance sheet side, we ended 2023 with over $69,000 in deferred revenue. Those are largely deposits that we take for future events. We don't recognize revenue until the event actually occurs. So we're already getting deposits for private events in 2025. Those will sit on our books as deferred revenue. We finished the year with over $239,000 in liquid assets. And then total assets on our book were over $1.4 million in what we call leasehold improvements. And while that's not necessarily something tangible that we can go out and sell, there are things included in there. The next chart actually has some of our capitalized expenses, of course, the roof restoration, as well as a number of the other capital projects that we took on, from terrace projects to the ADA compliance of the first floor bathrooms, et cetera. And I think that represents value that we're delivering to the Township. On the expense side, we are pretty much flat with a slight decrease in expenses in 2023. And again, this is the list of the capitalized expenses. I don't have a chart for what we've done so far in 2024. I think it's best to look at our performance over a time frame, over a longer time frame and a horizon. I will say that we are ahead of where we were this time last year from a revenue standpoint. So I'll open it up to questions.
Any commissioner questions? Everyone seems pretty happy. Any public questions? No? No. Come on up.
Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue. I am not an accountant. But the question I would have is, where is I'm assuming that Mr. Nord, being the executive director, is making a salary. I don't know whether it's a W-2 or a 1099, but I don't see that listed anywhere in this, and I would like to understand what he is making and where it is in this financial sheet. Thank you.
Nonprofits categorize their expenses into three categories. There's the program expense as well as program revenue. In the IRS vernacular, we oversee two programs. One is the renovation, restoration, and maintenance of the mansion. Two is public events and programming. And then there's fundraising and management in general. So those are really the three buckets: program revenue, management in general, and fundraising. And obviously, if you're giving to a nonprofit, you don't want to give $1 and know that every dollar going out is going to fundraising. So it's important that we demonstrate to the public, where the revenue coming in actually goes. So it goes across those areas. Will salary, like other expenses, get allocated? Will spends time on fundraising. Will spends time, a lot of time. In fact, Will was there all day Sunday. In addition to 5 days a week, Will was there all day Sunday. Monitoring, we had 3 bands, 2 high school jazz bands and a middle school jazz band were at the Willows performing, free community event for all. Will's there in the evening, locking up after those that want to use the mansion. So Will's there a lot. The example of his time spent on Sunday, that would be, public programming and events. When he is writing a letter to a donor, thanking them, that's fundraising. So his salary gets allocated. You were all provided with our detailed financial statements, which has different cuts of our expenses. I believe that that's public record as well. When I went onto the Township website tonight to figure out where we were on the agenda, and looking at the agenda as well as the various, meeting collateral, I saw that there was a link to our detailed financial statements for 2022 and 2023. So there is a cut of just absolute expenses, like his salary, utilities, et cetera. But from a presentation standpoint, his salary as well as utilities, as well as, some of the other expenses, they are allocated. But actually, maybe I could also, I'm trying to remember exactly how we allocated his expense, but I want to say there was about 20% was maybe management in general, some was fundraising, but a lot of what Will does is overseeing our programming.
Thank you. I think that's an adequate answer. I don't think we need to know Will's salary here. It's a transparent figure that could be looked up if you want to know more.
Couple questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Abel.
So if I'm reading this correctly, it looked like you had 2023 was in the positive by roughly 20,000.
Yes, that's correct.
So for 2024, what do you do if there's an emergency repair?
If there's an emergency repair, we are in conversation with M&T Bank about having a line of credit. And our board at the last board meeting just approved a resolution to seek that line of credit. Not so much for, it could be used for emergency repairs, as well as, we were awarded a grant of $89,500 that we're applying towards the kitchen renovation. And there's a process to apply for reimbursement, and just to make sure we don't have any cash flow issues as we apply for reimbursement and we have to pay contractors. So we do, longer term, our goal is to have a reserve fund, a larger reserve fund. That's a step. We finished the year, though, with, I think, healthy cash reserves, and it's our goal to continue to improve that picture.
Okay. For the remainder of 2024, have you guys talked about repairs or things that you want to do to the mansion this year?
Yeah, most definitely. The kitchen renovation is a priority project for us. We finished adding the first floor bathroom, so we have 3 bathrooms now on the first floor. That's already paid for. We renovated one of the upstairs bathrooms, bedrooms. Actually, we made the bathroom functional as well. That could be used as a bridal suite. And we are looking at a long list of various infrastructure projects, everything from HVAC replacement to, solarium roof replacement. We've done some patching of it. We've applied for a number of grants. We hope to see decisions in the next 6 months, and that'll determine, kind of where we land on being able to fund those projects on the list.
Will any of those requests come to the township to draw down some of the funds?
Potentially, well, almost certainly. But we do want to see where we land on the grant applications first. But as always, our intentions are to be good stewards of the township's money. If we look at just the fire suppression sprinkler system, the funding resolution was for $200,000. We came in at $173,000. So we will always be very good stewards.
So in the early stages, one of the things that I thought was most attractive about this project was that the goal was to open it up on a daily basis for community members to come in, to read the paper, have coffee, meet in small groups. Is that being done now?
I would love to see that. We do. So we have some woodworkers that have done some signage for us, as you've probably noticed when you've been over there. They're now on top of the kiosk. There's the Willows Park Preserve sign, as well as the mansion is open. So Will, pretty routinely, when he's at the mansion, you'll see at the bottom, the mansion is open. And you can come in daily. Will is hosting people that just stroll into the mansion because it's open. They open the door and there he is. I would love to continue to build on that. It costs money. It's staffing. We have had ongoing conversations on our board about, adding more part-time staff. There's nothing that would make me happier than I go for a hike on Saturday, and I was there Saturday and Sunday hiking, to be able to stop by and, grab a cup of coffee. We're not there yet, but we want to be there. That's a vision, and if you look at our mission statement and our vision statement, as Will said, that was a result of a lot of community input, and one of the things that we heard consistently is they wanted us to be more of an integral part of the whole park, and that to us is part of it. But again, it takes, it takes funds.
So as part of your strategic plan, which you're talking about a 3 to 5 year plan, is that aspect going to be included in there?
It's part of a vision. In terms of, is that part of budgets right now? No, it's not part of our budget now.
Wow.
The mansion is open. So I guess when I say it's not part of our budget, I'm speaking specifically of, Will is here a lot on the weekends when he is here. The mansion is always open when he's there. But we'd love to have it open, 7 days a week. So we still have to assess, where we might need part-time staff. And then the idea of having, coffee and light pastries available, that's something we've talked about as well. Is there a truck in the fountain courtyard? Is there at some point something we can do inside the mansion? We're not there yet in terms of being able to provide specifics, but it's part of the vision.
Okay. Of the 25 major events for 2024, how many of those are going to run past 10 o'clock?
Well, do you know how many? 2 more? Just two. Yeah, just 2, because we updated our space license agreement pretty quickly to require private events to end their events earlier. So just 2, and at least 1 has already occurred, right? Or is it 2? 2 more?
It's 8th and 9th of June.
Okay, so there's 2.
So June 8th and June 9th will be 2 events, both running to 11, both outside and both with music?
Yes.
Okay. 2025 is, I'm assuming you guys are already scheduling for 2025?
Yes.
Do you envision that you will have events going to 11, or 10
No.
p.m. 10 p.m. will be the cutoff?
I don't think we have any in 2025, do we? Yeah, yeah, no,
Okay. Is that going to be a policy from now on? 10 PM will be the end?
absolutely.
Okay.
And 9 PM on a workday school night.
Okay. And then, I do appreciate the work that you guys are involved in with the neighbors and helping to reduce some of the noise issues. I think that is a good collaboration. I'm really pleased with the process that's being made. Can you just update where we are on that issue?
Well, I think Will sent a letter. I don't, have you all received it? Okay, Will detailed in that letter the various steps that we have taken since the issue was first brought to our attention. It's a process because there are clients that sign contracts and we have to respect that. But, one of the things we've done is we purchased a new sound system. And we are sending out a notice. We've taken two approaches. For those that have yet to sign a contract with us, we have a special addendum to our space license agreement that is a little more rigid in the requirements to, hook up to our sound system, have the speakers pointed in a certain direction. And they have to sign that. For those clients that have already executed agreements with us, we are sending a notice because the agreements that they executed say that they have to comply with Radnor Township noise ordinance and all, park rules, regulations. And we send a notice. It doesn't require a signature, but it states how we interpret that. It's that you'll use our sound system, speakers will be pointed, towards Skunk Hollow, et cetera.
Okay.
And I think, I know that decibel readings were taken by the Radnor Police Department over, the last 2 weekends, and it's my understanding that they've all been below 50 decibel points.
Okay. And that communication with the neighbors will continue?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam President, just real quick, and I hate to interrupt, I just want to be, some folks will latch on to those dates. We have June 7th and June 8th, which is the Friday, Saturday, so. Yeah, no, that's okay. No, you're going off the top of your head, and I had it in front of you. So I just so no one thinks that it's going to be a Sunday night. It's Friday and Saturday.
No, I appreciate that, Bill. Thanks.
No, the clarification's good. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Any other commissioner questions or comments? No? Wonderful.
Right.
We'll see you in 6
Thank you.
months. Remember which is by and which is him. All right, let's move on to item D, resolution 2024. Sorry, let's move on to item D, resolution 2024-69, authorization of the payment of change order number 7 to complete the design of the revised Radnor Trail extension to Campbell Thomas and Company in the amount of $356,449 to be funded from the proceeds of the 2029 general obligation bond. Could I have a motion, please? So moved. And a second? Second. All right.
Good evening.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very nice to see you all. My only regret is that we're not out having this meeting on the Radnor Trail right now. But
Could you speak into the mic just a little
by
more?
all
I
means,
think it's,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm Bob Thomas. I've been involved with this trail since 1982, and I'm also involved with all the funding sources that are necessary for this. It's being funded by a general obligation bond, but also there's money coming from, you'll see in our presentation, from DCNR, DCED, Delaware County funds, quite a few. Could I get this slideshow running? Can someone help me with that? This is very short. I'll just introduce you as to the location of the funding and the breakdown of where that large number comes from. Great. Just 1 second. Sure, thank you very much. So the idea of the Radnor Trail was around for some time. I'm sorry, yes. The Radnor Trail the idea was around for some time because, as you know, the trail was on the Stratford branch, the original part of the Philadelphia and Western Railroad, which was abandoned in 1956 and sat there unused. It was bought by PennDOT. It's completely owned lock, stock, and barrel by PennDOT, and they wanted to do something with it, and people in the community wanted a trail. But at the time we started, trails were very controversial. So let's start with this. Here you can see the existing trail, and this rail bed was improved from Sugartown Road all the way at the beginning of the township, all the way to Radnor Chester Road. And when that happened, it was great. We went out for a bike ride, and 12 minutes later, we got to the other end, and people said, where's it going to go next? We've been the architects for much of the Schuylkill River Trail. There's 108 miles of Schuylkill River Trail, an old rail bed. This was a very short thing. And the William Penn Foundation asked the same thing about funding, and what they said is, we really want to get a network. So let's take a look. There we go. So there you see the regional trail, key elements of the regional trail network. You can see the Radnor Trail, that's the solid line where it's completed, but what's looked to is it was made part of the Valley Forge Heinz Refuge Trail. The William Penn Foundation set up this, and the Regional Planning Commission, DVRPC, set up our regional trail network of 800 miles for priority funding, and we got the Radnor Trail included in the trail that goes from the Schuylkill River Trail at Valley Forge all the way down to Fort Mifflin and the Heinz Refuge. The trail goes, as I said, to Radnor Chester Road, you can see on the left, and the section that we're looking at is to get up to the Blue Route, Route 476, extended on that piece of undeveloped trail you saw, to be ready to jump over and provide part of the crossing of the Blue Route. We also would make a connection, you can see at the left, that exists now from the TAP Trail along the west side of Radnor Chester Road. That would be connected to the trail, and it would go underneath. We did a study before some of you were on the board, and looked at the opportunity to do a grade crossing. And it could be done, and PennDOT agreed that it would be possible and it could meet certain standards, but the feeling was because this was an electrified line, when it was built in the early 20th century, it's completely grade separated. There are no crossings. When you go on the Chester Valley Trail, there's one major road after another. But if you live at Sugartown Road and your kid's 11 years old and wants to go to the Wayne Arts Center, they can do it safely, just going down the trail. So the feeling was, there was a bridge here at one time, let's put the bridge back, and that's what we were charged with, going back and redesigning this. Where we are right now, we've done early design for the grade separated culvert before, but there was a recommendation that an environmental analysis be done. And what has been found, and there's been research that was funded in the previous phases, tremendous arsenic contamination. So we looked at, and our consultants at Gilmore looked at the alternatives for taking care of that, either removal of the soil, which was considered too complex, or capping it, which changes all the grades of what we had designed. But that was the approach that was recommended and which we're following in this proposal. So we would have additional arsenic remediation planning and survey, the planning and culvert of the trail that accommodates that. And our proposal goes not just to design, but our services at this point would take us all the way through the end of construction right to the ribbon cutting. So we would be doing construction observation. We would be involved in overlooking the environmental work that's done. Our team, which includes several engineering firms, is responsible for maintenance and protection of traffic. When we open up this road, there are going to be all kinds of utilities that have to be dealt with. We want to minimize the road closure, and we have to provide alternative routes for not only motorists, but also we've done that for pedestrian and bicyclists. That's my bicycle back there. That's how I get around. I don't want to be told, bike trail closed, good luck. Seek alternatives. No, we've come up with designs for that. So just looking at the project overall, my accountant father is smiling up from his tombstone. that I really understand the need for what you have to understand here. Right now, Radnor has not received the dollars, but the grants have been awarded. They are by and large reimbursement agreements. So when the money's spent, it'll be reimbursed. But you can see 50,000 from DCED, 232,000, et cetera. The Delco Greenway grant, that's a very large grant that was awarded. And part of it is that your former commissioner, Elaine Schaefer, who is a trail person, as you know, she's the head of the Schuylkill River Greenways. I'm a former board chair of that organization. The people in Delco really understand the importance of this trail to their overall system. What we're looking at is we know that the construction, and I've talked over this with the engineering department here at Radnor, is probably in excess of $2 million, so that after you take out all the professional services that have occurred or would occur, you're left with a need for additional funds of about $1.3 million. What about future connections? Let's take a look here. This is what's there right now. To the left, you see the existing Radnor Trail, the solid red line. You can see Interstate 476. Right now, you come to Radnor-Chester Road, and you can see you follow the TAP trail, and then there's some sidewalks, and then you get back to near Villanova. And those X's are grade crossings. So they're right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grade crossings to get over to Villanova. This is the first extension right here. Would take us to Martha Brown's Woods. Even though this would be a temporary dead end, the volume of use on the trail is so high that people would, if they're running, why wouldn't they continue running right to the end? They would enjoy this. It's a beautiful area. It would also, for walkers and birders, would give access to Martha Brown's Woods and be a real benefit. What we're looking at after that would be a bridge, first bridge over some of the ramps. That would bring the trail here. You'd still have some grade crossings that would go around, and you can see at Sproul Road go back up to the rail bed and get to Villanova. Finally, what would happen would be a bridge over the Blue Route itself. This then would give you a route that would be completely grade separated. You'd still have the TAP trail and the other connections out into the community, into shopping, into the schools, and so forth. This would then go to the rail bed itself. Our plan is to take advantage of the fact that the P&W, the Philadelphia and Western, was built to be a 4-track railroad. You've probably heard this. You know the story. There's extra space. All the bridges are still longer, even when they've been replaced. So what we're looking at is, having the trail go down into Haverford all the way to Beechwood Brookline and then follow the Cobbs Creek Trail. That is all the Valley Forge Heights Refuge. The Chester Valley Trail, there was a ribbon cutting just last year. It now goes from, my God, all the way out at Exton, all the way to Norristown and ties right into the Schuylkill River Trail with no gaps. This bridge was put in not by Montgomery County, where this is, but it was done by PennDOT. When they redid this interchange in the Route 202, they said, hey, we're going to include and get rid of the gap. There had been a rail bed there. It's gone. It was gone, and they replaced that. We see the same thing happening. Beyond that, what we're looking at is this is in Haverford Township. You can see a place where the access to the Haverford station is actually a part of what would be the bike path, and that where the tracks 1 and 2 would have been built at one point. There's the walkway. And we've talked to SEPTA, just to Jen Doherty, who is the manager of long-range planning. She was back from some travel last week and tells us that because when we were looking at this 3 years ago with SEPTA planning to build an extension to King of Prussia, they wanted to reserve this land for additional tracks. That's not happening now. So she said the light is switched from red to yellow. Why don't you show us how this would work? And they said they're actually going to be studying all possible rail with trail projects on their entire system and would include analyzing this as well. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions on the technical part of the trail or funding or whatever.
How many feet are we actually adding to the trail with this project?
About 1/3 of a mile.
Okay. And the grant funds are already committed?
The funds that I showed are committed. They are not all the funding that would be needed to do this. So what could happen is the design work could be accomplished. You would still have to get additional funds for construction.
Above and beyond the 600,000 that?
Yeah, we said there's a shortage of about 1.3 million.
So could you go back to the slide with the accounting, if you could?
Let's see. Oh, this is just another one. Page. Yeah, so what you have.
No, if you could go
No, there it is, right. Okay, so what you have is the project cost, adding up everything, funds remaining, after all the design services are covered by this, by the funding you have already. And after that, there is still, and there's another $700,000 available for construction. Looking at a total budget for construction of about 1.3 million. Once you have the plans, it'll be easier to then draw down and get the other grants that you need to bring you up to the total construction cost of 2 million. So there's about you have the money to do all the design work, and also all the services through construction are covered by that. Maintenance and protection of traffic, inspections.
Could you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
The 1.3 million, does that include the 50,000, the 232, and the 407?
If you add all four of those up, yes, it does.
So you're just asking us for 622,000.
We are asking you for, for our budget, 370.
To build the entire additional 1/3 of a mile is
Yes.
the request that we will only ever spend, and I recognize numbers change.
No,
but
that's
the
fine.
concept today is we will only, as a board, ever spend $622,000.
That's 1.3.
That's for the design. Okay, okay. The funding that you have now,
So that 1.3.
the 1.3 is what you have.
Coincidental that it's also 1.3 on the next slide?
Right, and then if you go, yeah, so you let's go back. You have, okay, there. So far, you have these funds from the 3 grant sources. You have the general obligation bond. Those funds all add up to 1.3 million. Okay, and then let's go to the next one. Then what you've used out of that 1.3 million, right, is 255,000. That's what's been spent on this for clearing and design and permitting and all of that. So after that, if you take the 255 that's been spent, you have 1 million left. And then after you take out the additional, what is it? I have the number right here, 300 and, which covers all the engineering and the construction phase services, 356, right? So then, of the 1.3 that you have, you take out the funds remaining after the design services. There would be, if you take the 356 away from the 1.3, then you have 700,000 there remaining after the professional design and construction services. So you have, if you paid everything that we're asking for through the whole project, through the rest of the design, the rest of the permitting, revision of the drawings, revision of, et cetera, and then all the money is there for construction and so forth, construction phase services from the architectural and engineering and landscape and the environmental, all that's covered. Then you would have $700,000 remaining, and then the construction is in excess of 200,000. So you would need, for construction, you need to get another 1.3.
Okay.
Commissioner, if I may, so what we're requesting tonight is the 356,449. The hope is, once the project becomes shovel-ready, that opens up the door for several more grants. And there was a previous slide that showed one of these grants can be used for matching funds, which is one of the ways we got the TAP trail built through that. So I don't want to cloud the issue. We're asking for 356, 449, understanding bidding climates, and Mr. Bob Thomas will give us, as part of this, an estimated probable cost of construction as he goes through design. At that point, we can provide the board with that more precise number, understanding bidding climate and other items change, which would then let you see the balance needed for construction, but also allows us to apply for grants who want to see plans that are complete.
How long will the permits that we have now keep? Are they use them or lose them, or?
Yeah, we've been renewing as long as we can. What's happened is that PennDOT, I'm sorry, we've renewed them as long as we can. However, PennDOT has changed some of the requirements. They have a new way of doing this and a new way, so we're going to have to revise. The erosion and sedimentation will have to be looked at again with stormwater requirements having been changed. So yes, there is a certain amount, but all of that is included. And if you take the 255, you see at the top, and today we're requesting 356. Together, that's 5, that's almost 6, 7, right? And then if you say from the 1.3 that you have, it's a little less, that leaves 700, then you would take out that total of about 7 from the 1.3, that leaves the 700,000 that you have for construction.
So some of this, I'm sure, is because I'm a lawyer, not an accountant, and some of this is because I'm tired and I'm stuffed up. I'm still not really sure how many dollars that we're talking about to get through construction, but it kind of doesn't matter for me because just doing some Fermi estimation here, the place where I'm coming to, it is just, I haven't spoken to anybody else. I feel confident, though, that I speak to the board when I say, if we were just talking about let's extend the Radnor Trail by 1/3 of a mile, it would not be worth this.
No, it wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest that at all.
The problem that I have is I have no real feel for either the plausibility of connecting with the other trails or the costs that would be involved in connecting with the other trails. And without that, I don't want to just spend somewhere between 1.3 and $2 million, I'm not really sure, or $2.6 million, in order to discover that we're not ever going to be able to move any further. We always analyze things to death and study things to death. We blow through an absolute fortune doing that, but this might be one of those times when a higher level analysis to figure out whether it's actually credible that we would be able to get to the next trail would make some sense.
Actually, we did a feasibility study about 6 years ago, right, which led then to this design. A big portion of the trail south of Radnor is completed. Large portions. Actually, I have other slides if you want to see, just of the county trail plan, how much of that is completed. It's not as though you get across the bridge and now you have another 12 miles. It'll be completely done from Upper Darby to John Heinz this year.
Okay. That puts a different complexion on it.
Yeah, and then the Haverford Township is building its part. So, and the other thing too is we did show in that slide here that there is a way of connecting, even though there's some grade crossings as there are on the TAP trail, and that would be connecting to all this stuff that's completed. So as a circuit trail, right, and as a trail that connects 2 federal sites, Valley Forge and the Heinz National Wildlife Refuge, it's the highest priority for funding, and it's gotten funded. So Parks and Recreation in Philadelphia is doing its part through the Cobbs. You know, the Cobbs Creek Park is continuous. You get to Carracung Park, then Carroll Park, then Cobbs Creek, and that's all That's all being turned into the golf course. You know, there are people here in Radnor working on that, and then that includes the trail around the perimeter. Below there, it's all done.
Okay.
We could take a very nice ride today to John Heinz from.
It's a good answer to my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I have some questions, if you don't mind. So, for your part of this project, how long do you think it'll take you to do it?
How what?
How long do you think it'll take you to?
The design, permitting, I would say about 10 to 12 months.
Full-time, or what, or like someone, you have one person, a few people working on it? What's the,
Oh, no, we
take
have
that
a whole
long?
bunch of people. The people working on it include, well,
well, I mean, just from your company, just from Campbell
Just from-
Thomas. Campbell Thomas.
oh, from Campbell Thomas? Yeah, we have 3 people working, and the hours involved
Yep.
over this period. For me, it's 404 hours. And this is a highest
Yep,
priority
please.
project. Over 12 months, that's very reasonable. Doug Mazie has 642, and we have a few hours from our civil engineer on general things. There also is a sub-consultant working directly with us on a daily basis, is the firm of Ritu Associates, and they have $65,700 worth of effort in all their work, which is described in detail. Gilmore and Associates has $3,000 in updating surveying, because when the rail bed is capped, its elevation is going to change, and that conjiggers with the stormwater management approach, so all that has to be looked at. That's $3,000, and they have another $52,000 in all the environmental remediation work, testing, everything else. They have adequate people assigned. We also have on our team, who's worked with us before, a landscaping firm, which would do the clearing, so there wouldn't be a delay in having the township have to get the...
So my point is, it's 356,000, almost
Right.
3.
Plus or
five,
minus,
say,
yeah.
right. And you figured out how many hours you think it's going to take?
Yeah, they're given in our...
Just,
Yeah.
you figured it out. Because
We
you haven't
have.
done the work yet, so it's an estimate.
Excuse me?
You haven't done the work yet, so you're thinking, you're kind of, not a guesstimate, but you've figured out how long it's going to take.
Yeah, but this is very straightforward for us. Yeah, and I guess the other thing is, we're proposing that it be an hourly not-to-exceed contract. So there's some areas where we have had situations where we don't run into we've allowed for deeper problems and whatever, so we don't have to come back.
So when you say an hourly not to exceed, can you
Right.
explain that?
That means we have billing rates. When we invoice, we've done this through the whole project.
Yeah.
We list our hours, we have the fees from our consultants, or any expenses, and we cannot go above a cap.
Okay. And,
And I will just tell you,
yes,
we have, because we're dedicated to this project. Over time, I probably have about 800 extra hours. You know that how much I'm involved in making the circuit
I
happen.
understand that.
Yeah, no, but in terms of your numbers and so forth, yeah, there's, the fees will not exceed the number here.
So it will not exceed 356.
Correct.
And if good fortune rains upon us and it's less, what happens?
We just don't build, if we don't spend all the hours, because suppose the permitting goes more easily than
Yeah.
we've allowed for, then we don't bill for that. It's not a percent complete contract or a fixed fee contract.
So you're not saying that we would write you a check now for 356?
Oh, no.
Commissioner,
is how-
if I can jump in.
Yeah.
So this is how we word most of our contracts,
Okay.
NTE, and the reason for that being, so there's a set cost, but as Mr. Thomas said, should we have smooth sailing, or should a task not be required, we just don't get billed for it.
Okay.
So this is covering it, and you won't, that $356,499 is over the period of the next year. That would be how that would be paid out.
Actually, it would extend through construction.
Yeah, that's right, even through, and
Because
that's
our environment-
that's an important part. So
Sure.
that portion will not be billed until the trail would be built.
I was concerned, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, there's a whole construction phase
Right.
services, and those get billed along with the construction happening.
No, I was saying, I was concerned because it's not only, to me, a lot of money anyway, but, it eats into the general obligation bond.
Sure.
So I don't want to spend it unwisely.
Absolutely.
Okay? We're on the same page then, thank you.
Yes, certainly.
So, just for clarification, where is the 356 coming from? Bill, Steve?
The general obligation bond.
Which,
But it's unfunded at this point.
no, the township borrowed the money with the general obligation bond with the specific purpose of continuing this project forward, which includes the costs that are in front of you tonight.
Now, am I correct that because you've received notice of these grants, You have the grants. The money is not here. It's a reimbursement agreement. So that as the township spends its own funds, they can apply to get reimbursed by these entities.
Okay.
Just real quick on that point, I don't want to confuse the issue. The general obligation bonds are not meant to cover the reimbursement portion of the grants.
Okay.
So the township uses its own resources.
That's why I asked.
To expend those grant dollars first, and then we replenish ourselves as we go along. The general obligation bond was in addition to
Yes.
the grants that we've been awarded.
Okay, and has the board taken any action on the 1.3 estimate for construction?
No, sir.
No.
So this is solely for design. That is it.
No, I understand that, but you're not going to spend this amount of money without, what are you going to do, spend this money, $356,000, and then not go to
That is not the
construction?
goal.
Yeah,
So the goal
I
would be
understand
to obtain grants, and if needed, we would have to work out the finances of that, if this goes through.
Yeah, I almost think that this board needs to have a discussion about that 1.3, and how that's to be funded. Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly provide a list of all the funding sources that are available that would be the ones you'd apply to. They're very much aware of this project. Oh, I'm sorry, we could certainly provide, well, we've done that with you, Steve, a list of all the funding sources that regularly do this. They're very much aware of this. And, they're waiting for plans and looking to fund it because it's, the very, very high priority federal, state, local plan, and is seen as connecting to all these other trails and providing a key part of the Delaware County network and the regional network.
But Thomas is saying is we have the grants that we have. We're not going to be able to qualify for any other grants until two things. We come up with a shovel-ready design and the estimated probable cost of construction. Aside from applying for grants, we have that Delco Greenway grant for over $400,000, which can be used as a match to further this along. But we're not going to be able to even apply for any grants unless the board sees fit to approve this.
Any further commissioner questions? No? Jim, you're good? Any public comments or questions? Come on up. Give your name and address.
Hi, Lisa Hallowell. I'm a member of the Radnor EAC, 466 Upper Gulf Road. Excuse me. I just had a quick question to put this in perspective, and I may be misunderstanding this, but what I remember about this project, there was a presentation made in October of 2022 where the arsenic remediation options were considered, and the option of cap in place was selected instead of removal of the arsenic-contaminated soils. From what I understood is that's because it was going to save about $500,000. There are option A or option 1 would have been $683,850 for excavation and removal of arsenic-impacted soils. Option B, which is the option that I believe was chosen, was $104,000, which was just capping in place the contaminated soils with arsenic, which is a known human carcinogen. So it concerns me that we're going to spend about 2/3 of that potentially tonight. To be quick with this, my quick comment is for almost about the same amount of money, we're putting that now toward design. I feel like if we're going to have an expenditure that big in the future, and if possible for this project, if it's not too late, I feel like that money should go toward actually keeping our community safe and clean and getting rid of contaminated soils rather than that should be a priority in the future moving forward when we're talking about this kind of an expenditure of hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's my 2 cents. I'll speak again in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public participation?
George Marks, 123 Cambria Court, St. David's. Having been a big supporter of Rails to Trails and all of the bike trails, this is, back up, George Marks, President, Kramer Marks Architects, formerly a lot of experience in the public funding space of similar projects. I understand that you do need to complete the design process in order to be able to even make the applications. When you look at the structure of the trails that are contemplated for the entire area, it's a little bit of chicken and the egg. We do ours, you do yours, things come together. I believe the proposal that Mr. Thomas has put forth this evening, even though Mr. Thomas has been a thorn in my side for a long time, I am in full support of the application and the plans that he made, and I believe you'll be successful in getting the money you need to build the trail down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Hi, Laura Luker, Radnor Conservancy, Ward 4. Original member of the Trail Council that started all of this back when. And I have to say, with complete compassion, this trail and just the work that has gone into this has such potential. And it's really looking at the vision, the big vision of how this is all going to happen for you in the future. I know it doesn't, you don't understand how these segments work, but they're all coming together. And once you kind of get these pieces to come together, then you get the piece that is the big kahuna going over the Blue Route. You have the most important person on trails in the whole Mid-Atlantic sitting in this room. We should be doing this to him. Bob has done so much for this township. He is a gift. He is super knowledgeable. I put my trust into him. I know other people put their trust in him. He has done an amazing job for us, and he will continue to do that for our township and for this trail. It might look like a small piece, but it will have a big impact. Also, on the comprehensive trail, or on the comprehensive plan that is being done right now and studied right now, what was the #1 thing that people really wanted? Open space and trails. So I think you guys, this is a really important piece to making connectivity to the community, connectivity to other townships, and we will get better grant opportunities, but it takes this first fee to be done. Because if you don't do it, then you're just killing the whole project. It's not a deal anymore. So thank you for listening to all of us.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comment? Okay. In that case, we will take a vote on Resolution 2024-69. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. On to item E, which is a presentation sponsored by the Environmental Advisory Council. Commissioner Agnew, you're the liaison. Want to give us a quick start?
Thank you very much, Maggie. Commissioner Myers, or Madam President, all those things. Sven, who made this presentation a few weeks ago to the EAC, has some really terrific ideas of how to increase our being a green township, literally green, and by literally plants, and in that regard, in helping us just be a better place to live. And he has a terrific presentation to give you. I know it'll probably really be done in pieces if we should agree to do it, but wow them. You wowed us before, so go ahead.
Thank you for the invitation. I did this presentation already before at the EAC. I changed it now after input from Tammy and Ricky and some other discussions. And to calm you all down, the numbers are much smaller than what we just discussed. Good. It's always good. So what is the challenge? I was thinking about that, create biodiverse habitats in a township with limited open space. That was triggered by a discussion I had with the Willistown Conservation Trust about their land acquisition. They spent $5 million for 55 acres. Of course, if you live in Radnor, you don't have 55 acres to just acquire, and most likely also not the funds for it. What is a potential solution to create more biodiversity in a township like Radnor? I don't think big, think actually small, and then it adds up to become a big space. So the idea is to create a network of biodiverse islands on existing idle space. We have enough of it in the township. And then I also thought we should focus on insect diversity, pollinators. It requires the least investments to plant a pollinator-friendly plant than to plant a tree. You anyways have in your tree program cornerstone trees and planting programs in place, so that's already underway. And I think there is an effect once citizens see what it can be done, that is a pull effect to just start and get going in your own backyard. I did this myself. I can see the effect. If you just replace lawn with pollinator plants, you have immediate feedback. It's just amazing to see how fast nature reacts to it. And of course, you want to have a big vision. We just talked about the trail vision. I think the vision here is it's Radnor, the best of the main line. I noticed that when I moved to this township in 2016, that when you enter the township, it says the best of the main line. And it's also the home of Chanticleer, nationally wide-known garden here in our township. And I think Radnor could, of course, be a model for community-based biodiversity gardening. It's not a new thing. It's a movement. You can see it if you are open-minded when you drive around, how this is spreading. And I think here in Radnor we can do more about it, and it's also quite simple. So just the science behind it, it's pretty simple. If you have lawn, you have a small amount of species. If you have more biodiversity, you get a huge benefit through nature by having more, let's say, insects, leads to more birds, leads to many other good things. Yeah. So what are examples of open spaces? That was the one actually that let me think about it. It's when you come down from the highway exit that maybe gets a bridge in a couple of years on the trail that we just discussed. You see these two traffic islands that are totally empty, and I thought, why does nobody do something with these mulch beds? Because apparently they were once designed to put some plants into it, but they are empty, and why don't you give people that exit the highway and come into Chanticleer or into Radnor already an idea that this is the home of Chanticleer, and you could plant some nice plants on this fields or in this area. You see how it looks like from Google Maps. Now, Ricky informed me that the grasses were just taken out. I saw that actually also today, because apparently it's not possible to plant anything there. I don't understand it, why you can't plant a knee-high perennial there that make it look beautiful and remind people of the home of Chanticleer in our township and make it more biodiverse. But the good news is, of course, that's not the only open space that the township has. Other direction. You have others. Examples are open spaces. This is the Willows Park. Just when you come in, you have, for example, this big lawn. Then you have the one when you exit on the right side, which is also little frequented. I'm there every day, so it's not really used. And then you have the one that is above the community garden next to the mansion that we also discussed tonight. And if you look at the other two lawns that are opposite side of Darby-Paoli Road, there's just a lawn to meadow conversion project underway, which I noticed. apparently run by the homeowners association there that own the two meadows opposite of the Willows Park Reserve. So there's enough open space. And what does it cost a lot to create a meadow? Of course not. You just stop mowing parts of it. I have here an example of King of Prussia Township. They just do the edges and let nature take care of the rest. So I believe we could think about some areas which are lawn today, which are mowed, of course, with township money every week. Just let them grow, some spaces of it, and then you will have a meadow in 2 or 3 years, and you don't need to spend any money on it, and it costs you actually less money because you don't need to do the lawn mowing every day. Yeah? What you can do, of course, on top of it, that's just an example. It's from Central Europe, century-long tradition to also plant community-owned fruit trees on top of it. When I was a child, my family always called the Township, and we rented 2 or 3 trees for harvesting in fall. So that's, of course, something you can also consider to complement your meadows with fruit trees. Yeah? Cost not very much money. And then we have more spaces, open spaces. This is at the elementary school. I'm sure you spend a lot of money mulching these beds. I'm always wondering when I walk there, why is nothing planted there? So there is already space available within the township. And you have the other areas. This is the AT&T municipal parking lot along Lancaster Avenue. There's this big AT&T building on the other side. And I took a photo here. Very nice mulch beds, but no plants. And you have the strip at the middle school. I'm sure you have to use Roundup and mulching every year to just keep the plants out, because otherwise something would be growing on that space. And what can you do? That's an example of Newtown Square when you just drive down the roads. It's the same picture of Radnor Middle School, and this is the new planting that Newtown Square put in one of these strips. I think it looks pretty nice. It's obvious to the citizens here in Radnor that this is an improvement to what it was before, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money, because one of these plugs, it's between $1 and $1.50 when you buy it from wholesale nurseries. So if you buy 1,000, you spend $1,500 or $2,000 on such a planting project. I think the return on investment is pretty high for the money you spend. And of course, what I think is a mistake in this planting, it's all planting that supports pollinators in spring or now early summer. You need, of course, a planting program that takes a bee through the whole year, from spring to midsummer to late summer. And there are enough plants that are American wildflowers. They are deer resistant, they are drought resistant, they only grow knee-high, and you don't need to take care of them. You just cut them back once a year, and then you get basically the benefits of the planting. So what's the benefit for Radnor? So first is, of course, citizen engagement. Everybody can participate. You can just put plugs in. You don't need any education to do that. Just as a reminder, when the EAC did this plant giving just recently, 150, let's say, households signed up for it, and every household got 2 plants. So that's basically $3 per household. I don't think that's very impressive and ambitious, but you see that there is a high interest for things like that. It's easy to do. It's, of course, leading to pride, visible effect in short time for everybody to see. It gets colorful. Costs are pretty low. Branding, it increases Radnor's reputation as the best of the mainline. I think if we have this motto, we should also try to do something with it. And there are, of course, soft factors, better water management, no irrigation required, more bees, student education, role modeling. You can take this part from the middle school, and middle school students can also take care of it or do the planting. We had at the EAC meeting somebody from, I think, Radnor High School that said they would get the volunteers to put the plugs in. It's not a lot of work. Yeah? And you can, of course, integrate it with other initiatives like tree planting. So what's the potential next steps? I think first is, of course, always to have a target. I think putting 5,000 to 10,000 plants in a year, it's pretty achievable. It's not that much work. It doesn't cost that much money. between $7,500 to $15,000 a year. Labor cost, I think we should really think about community engagement, that this is all done for volunteers so that you don't have any, let's say, cost to put the plugs in. The maintenance costs are a problem often. If you take wildflowers, you just cut them back once a year in spring. You just let them there. I've noticed that opposite of the middle school, where the new parking lot or the renovated parking lot is, there were some trees planted and there were also grasses planted. So somebody certainly cuts back these grasses once a year. If you just put some pollinator plants in between, you cut them back as well. And that's not creating any incremental spending, I think. Yeah? What I would propose is to start with 2 or 3 highly visible areas, so along Lancaster Avenue in front of the middle school. Start small, get people engaged, and from there you can grow. If it's too much work and it doesn't work, the good news is you can just take the plants out. Yeah? But I think to start somewhere, take an area where people can really see. I think we should work with Chanticleer. They are, of course, experts in planting anything. Try to find the easiest drought-resistant, robust trees for our climate area. And then you get going in the fall. And I would also propose to combine the tree giving in fall with some more perennial plant giving so that you get both things combined. The infrastructure for that and the process is already set up. And that's my proposal to the township.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful proposal. Any commissioner questions or comments? I have a few. Tell me a little bit about watering. So when they first go in, you just have to water for a year or something until they're established, or do you have a handle on that? Because that's pretty labor intensive.
Yes, you would put them in fall so that the plugs get established, and then you don't need to water them.
You don't even, the next summer, you're okay, usually?
The next summer, you should be okay. Yeah.
All right. And do you mulch around them at first to keep weeds away, or do they crowd out their own weeds over time and you just don't worry about it at first?
So the good news is, of course, you have already these extensive mulch beds everywhere, so you don't need to put more.
So you just put the plug in the mulch?
You just put the plug in. I tested that with my neighbor's mulch bed now over the last weeks. You just need to put the mulch aside, you put the plug in, you put a little bit the mulch back. And of course, the idea is over time they grow over the mulch, that you don't need to take care of the area as well.
Great. I love the suggestion of coming up with a concept with Chanticleer, who would know the native drought-resistant plants. I think that's terrific. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'd love to hear from Mr. Foster. Well, just in that you maintain all of this land, the couple of spots we're talking about starting.
Okay. I talked to Sven. We had a conversation about the Blue Route exchange. Currently, we are not allowed to plant anything there. It is still under the guise of the state. So while we are ripping out those grasses that were there, that was because the bed the grasses died back. So we do have a plan to do that, but we aren't allowed to put anything in. So only thing we're planting there is grass. So while it will, that's what Sven wants us to do, is put in, the plants. We won't be planting any type of material because basically we aren't allowed. Got it.
And is there a way to apply to PennDOT or anything for planting permissions? Do we know?
I talked to the representative from PennDOT when Sven had first reached out, and I mentioned the idea. He mentioned they would only be like 2 feet tall, and he still said no.
It's a visibility issue?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What do you think about having your troops take care of plugs and perennials? I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
I'm sorry.
We've had conversations about it. The biggest thing for me is the maintenance part going forward. I think the initiatives are amazing. I love the pictures, how beautiful it looks. There are areas in the township where I'm sure we could have some no-mow zones. We already have them. We could have more. I am a proponent for that. I would have no problem. I can use my staff to do other things. But if we were to install some of these beds, and I mentioned this to Sven, the maintenance aspect, because it will take a while for these plants to grow, and what happens when the plants die. Because even though they are perennials, all perennials don't always come back. They do have a shelf life like anything else that goes in. So who would be responsible for that? The volunteers, unfortunately, we've had projects that have come through the township in different parks, which I do have a list of them. And what happens when the volunteers go away and now they don't care for it anymore? It's left for the township staff to maintain it. And the easiest thing for us to do is remove it because we won't be able to maintain it. The staff that I have now in the Parks Maintenance Department, they're basically maxed out with the amount of work that they have and the new projects that come on board. So while I am in favor of beautifying the township, the care is the part that I would kind of pause on.
Yeah, that's the part that made me uneasy. And then as I was walking into the township building earlier today, you have a large area that's covered with a short grassy-like plant that seems to have crowded out everything. I mean, it's you don't even need to mulch except to shake a little in the front. And I think, if you could go with a relatively native, low maintenance, it might take some love and care for the first years until it's established. But, if we got the right plants, we could start in a few small areas.
Yeah,
It really
but
depends
one thing
on
I will say, I'm sorry, Sven, to cut you off. And once the presentation, because I watched it from the EAC and I thought it was very good, and even the changes that he made tonight, we do have areas that I would like to have a conversation with the Parks Maintenance Supervisor, Tammy Cohen, and also Sven, because I do feel like there are areas that we could suggest where he mentioned, what was that? On Route 30, there's going to be a building going in there proposed at least, but I was looking at like the senior center. Right in front of that building, it's an empty wood chip bed where we could do something like that. It's just, there's no plants in there. There's been some dieback. Down Sawmill Park, where we have the fishing derby. When I first came to the township, the middle of those beds was just grass where it wasn't mowed. That would be an area where we could, plant some wildflowers. Even across on the other side, where it's a walking path, there could be some areas. So there are some areas that, I think we could sit down and come up with something in a plan to propose. But the biggest part would be the care.
So,
I think starting small is
the way to go, yeah. So what about South Wing parking lot there? That area it's there, and working with the middle school? Have we talked about, I have talked to a couple of people on the school board. They think it's a great idea.
Not the part he showed in the picture across the street. You're talking about the part that Steve Nostini just did his project?
Yeah,
Because-
where it's the,
Okay.
near the library, the South Wing parking lot?
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem with that. I mean, it is planned. I don't know what room he has to plant stuff, but we could definitely consider that.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is, the middle school has the watershed program. It's all about being green and all of that, and if they were interested in helping to maintain. Go ahead. I'm just saying, is that a viable thing for you, or is that something you guys don't really want to?
Again, if they're going to take care of it regularly,
Okay.
like, volunteers coming and going is great, but, when weeds come or plants die,
Right.
That is when we need the people to be there to take care of it. And when
Right,
they don't,
okay.
we get phone calls that it looks a mess, and then we have to go out and take care of it. So that's always been the problem. It's never, these initiatives are amazing. When they're nice and they look good, everything's beautiful, but unfortunately, when the volunteers go away, we do have to take care of it.
Well, with Watershed, the volunteers go away when they graduate, but there's some new class comes in, so that would be.
But they are gone all summer, so.
So is there a lot of work in the summer that has to be done to maintain them?
So I'm not a professional gardener, but I can only tell you from my own experience in my garden, you definitely need 2 years until everything is established. And then I noticed then the workload goes significantly down because everything is dense, you don't have weeds coming in, and then once a year I cut my garden back. Yeah, so that's it. But of course, initially you have to plant the right plants, and for that reason I propose to talk to Chanticleer, because you need professional advice. Otherwise, you get a little bit messy. But there are areas within Radnor where this has already been done, and it's working actually quite nice. And for that reason, my proposal was not to plant here everything with perennials, but start somewhere small and see how much work it really does. I think we can sustain it over 2 or 3 years until it's established, and if it's not working out, you buy a canister of Roundup and take everything out again. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't use Roundup, but
that was a joke.
I think
We
that
don't-
the specifics of the plan could go back to the Environmental Advisory Council and come up with a specific plan, perhaps involving some middle school students, and then speak with Mr. Foster and see what's reasonable, and we can go from there. But I really love the sentiment, and I like the presentation very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, if I may?
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking.
A shameless plug, but Shimoni Road culvert, we planted exactly what Sven had laid out, what you showed in Germany, right? That's all fruit trees, and that is all floodplain grasses and forest grasses. Similarly, at the West Wayne Preserve, if you've been by recently, aside from the thousands of tree stakes that you see there, we also have non-maintenance grasses that are going to be going in there, right? Forest grasses. So we're always considering what's best for the environment, as well as Ricky and his guys when we do these, and that's our plan going forward. So shameless plug. Thank you.
Good. It looks terrific. I drive by there every day, and I'm awed. Thank you. All right. Reports of board liaisons. Anybody? Obviously, Kathy's already made hers. I want to put a little plug in for the Board of Health meeting is tomorrow evening at 5:30, where our student interns will be doing their annual presentation. So that should be fascinating. Anyone else? No? Any new business? Any old business? Any final public participation? Come on up.
Good evening, Ray Adams, 329 West Laurier Place. I'm a member of the Environmental Advisory Council for the past 3 or 4 years. Sven did present to us at our April meeting, and at our May meeting, we did unanimously approve his plan. I do live in the Laurier development, and at the intersection of Bryn Mawr Ave and Mill Road, we have about 5 to 7 acres of open space. And we spent a tremendous amount of time this past year eliminating invasive species. Many of the residents didn't even know we had a beautiful stream that went through there. So the first phase of that plan, and this is, for the local residents, we have beautiful open space, is to clear out the invasive species, and then we are coming back with a lot of these perennial type plantings to start to create zones. So, we'll be doing this in other areas as well. But there's definitely plenty of areas throughout the township where we should be considering this and starting to move forward. Our intention at the EAC, we do have a student ambassador so we build in the alignment with our educational awareness at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary schools. So we'll be tying these types of activities into Earth Day plans and also like the watershed programs and other things like that. So we'll continue to build in that type of awareness for these types of programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public participation? Seeing none, could I get a motion to adjourn? And a second? I assume all in favor?